Hello and welcome to the AaronCanDraw Art Podcast, Episode 4, an interview with Francis Boncales. The goal of this podcast is to keep it short and sweet and hopefully learn a few things from your favorite artists. Today I'm talking to Francis Boncales, a visual development artist currently working for the Warner Animation Group on the upcoming animated feature, Scoob. No, it's not an animated feature about a scuba diver, but everyone's favorite mystery-solving dog, Scooby-Doo. Francis is originally from the state of California, but decided to go to school at the Rhode Island School of Design. Besides doing feature visual development, Francis has done a ton of background painting for TV animation, including the Warner Brothers upcoming cartoon Green Eggs and Ham, as well as dabbling in some texture painting for video games. Francis is a fantastic painter and illustrator and was nice enough to sit down and share some of his experiences in the industry and some of his biggest influences. Francis and I met through Instagram and later became buddies at CTN. We later found out we had a very close mutual friend from my very first job in the industry and his days at RISD. As it turns out, this industry is very small. You can check Francis's work out on Instagram at Francis Boncales. Boncales is spelled Boncales, or you can just check out below for a link to it. So let's hop into it and have a fun art chat with the impossibly nice Francis Boncales. Enjoy! All right, Francis, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing all right. It's a little hot. I appreciate you coming to my second floor apartment in a room that has no AC to talk to me.
Oh, man. Well, I appreciate you getting me a cup of water with ice in it. So
that has already melted 1 minute into being there. So one thing that I wanted to talk to you about specifically is that you have a very interesting kind of scenario that you've been in. Being someone that has worked in, everything from TV animation to feature animation to video games, can you talk a little bit about some of the differences, some of the things you preferred about one job as opposed to another, and your experience in those jobs?
And you just want to know the differences between them?
Yeah, because I feel like people would gain something from that, right? Like, I mean, if me and you were still in school, and we didn't know the difference between them, it might help us understand, maybe I wouldn't want to do this thing in video games, but I think maybe TV is better suited for me as opposed to feature, as opposed to whatever. So,
well, the thing is, I feel like my experience as a texture artist is such a small part of the grand scheme of things that I can't really say much about it. I mean, I worked in a casino game studio, so that was.
Hey man, but people don't even know that that's a job.
That's true.
It is one of the weirdly most stable art positions because people are always going to gamble.
Yeah.
Video game market can go up and down.
Yeah.
One of my best friends has worked at a casino games company for years.
Is it the one in Chicago?
No, it's for Gimme Games. It's some huge casino games place. But he's one of the most talented artists that I know. And he works on casino games. His style looks nothing like his. Yeah, man, it pays good and it's consistent. So that's what my job is. I'm like, all right, dude, that's cool.
It's crazy. I mean, I didn't think I would ever work in casino games, but it was the main art director for 38 Studios, Tom Mang. Once the studio closed down, he reached out to me months later, asking me if I was available to work with him at this new studio called High Five Games, and I had no idea. I didn't know anything about the studio. I was like, sure. I assumed it was video games. I was going to work on a MMO or an RPG or something. And he said that he was looking for a production artist assistant. And I looked up the website because I was like, I don't know anything about this, but it seems like this is a cool opportunity maybe. And I just saw a bunch of casino games, slot machines, on those websites. There were hundreds of them, different styles, different stories, different themes, and I was turned off by it a little bit because I was like, I don't want to be doing this. I want to work in feature animation feature animation.
It is a weird feeling when you look at it and you're just like, I don't want to do this. Psychologically feels beneath you. Even though, let's be honest, we were young, and inexperienced, so nothing is beneath us. That's
a good point because I'm sure I felt a little entitled, I could find better work than this, and my parents had to convince me to take this job because it was already 6 months after my graduation. I
Mm.
couldn't find any work, and I moved to LA in hopes to find work in animation, and I slept on my cousin's couch for 3 months, and we go to coffee shops every day to work on my portfolio. And I remember printing out different portfolio books to send over to DreamWorks, Disney, Cartoon Network, and Nickelodeon. I would actually show up to the security guard asking if I could do a walk-in interview, which was silly.
Is that a thing?
That was maybe like in the 50s or something. But I figured, hey, I was desperate. I was going to try any opportunity to like get a job in animation. And, I'm handing my portfolio to the security guard of DreamWorks, and he was like, I don't know what to do with this. And I was like, can you hand it over to HR or, recruiting? And he said he would. And nothing came out of that, but at least I tried.
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah. And then I get this call from Tom Ang, who was the art director at 38 Studios, now defunct. And he just reached out to me, and I was like, I guess I'll take this job. And, my parents had to really convince me because I was running out of time, and I had the 6-month grace period where I didn't have to pay for my loans.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, I just need to take any job, and so I moved to New York City to work for for High Five Games in hopes that I would only work there for a year and then move back to LA and get a job in animation. What meant to be a year ended up being about 3.5 years. So during that time, I had my ups and downs. It was rough, but in hindsight, I think that was a good time for me to just it humbled me. It just reminded me of how much I needed to grow as an artist before what I needed to do to finally get a job in animation, because my work wasn't there. I didn't know what I was doing per se. And and that's when I started taking classes online on schoolism.com. And I kind of honed in of what I wanted to do, because I was jumping around between character design, background design, prop design, animating in After Effects, and just doing a bunch of these different skills. I'm like, what am I don't know. I needed to hone into one thing. And, I realized, I'll go into background painting, color and light, and storytelling. Yeah, my experience working at High Five Games was cool because I was able, I learned how to animate in After Effects. I was able to do illustration work, photo retouching, graphic design, because all this, we were doing digital slot machine games. So everything, all the assets on the screen, it was just...
You gotta learn everything.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It was even I don't know. It was crazy because, a lot of things that I learned on that job applies to a lot of things that I do now, especially as a visual development artist. Because I feel like as a vis artist, you kind of have to be a sort of a jack of all trades, or being able to be a chameleon and just kind of jump to different tasks.
Because technically everything falls under visual development.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know how to do graphic design. I don't, but guess what? I'll get something close.
Yeah. Oh my God. But going back to 38 Studios, my experience working there was really fun. But like I said, my task was I was such a small part in the bigger picture. And, I would work a few hours after school. I would go to the studio to work on some assignments, and I would see all these professionals, especially our friend Alex May, who would be working super late in the night, till 12 a.m. to 2 a.m., just working on assets for the game. And it was just wow, that was I guess this is what it's like working in the industry.
Yeah.
And later on experiencing a good working condition at High Five Games, where I worked from 9 to 5 and that was it. There was no crazy hours. It wasn't anything too intense. It was just a normal day-to-day job. Yep. I can go home after 6 and do my own thing. But yeah, so the difference between working in games and then jumping onto background painting and especially TV animation, I'm skipping a lot, but I really loved my first job in animation here. I was a background designer, and yeah, it was really fun. I learned so much about the art of animation and the things that went into like the pipeline because I had no idea. Definitely think the working conditions in TV or just animation in general is a lot better. TV or animation in LA because it's very specific, right? Anywhere else in the world, and you know it might be
a little different. Like
a little
we have
different.
The union, we have some things that kind of protect us a bit and make sure we're at least getting paid if we're working a bunch of overtime and stuff.
Yep, definitely.
Like video games don't have a union yet, which is a little shocking.
Yeah. Yeah, seeing that difference from working on the AAA game and then going to saw machines and then jumping into TV animation was like almost night and day.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, like this is great. Like I was so happy working in TV animation, and I felt like very comfortable, and I was able to be creative, and it wasn't like I didn't have to like sweat and cry and, you know, or like have blood and tears, you know, like to work. I'm like, oh, I don't need to do that in order to create good work.
Yeah.
You know? But then my transition from TV animation over to feature. So this is kind of funny. So my first job in in animation was as a background design cleanup. So I took a lot of the rough designs from the other background designers, and I would, you know, make them look animation ready. And then that would be handed over to the background painting team, and then they would paint it up. But some of the layouts I would get would be super rough. Some of them would be like almost like a storyboard thumbnail. So I would have to just like
basically make an entire background.
Yeah, basically. But I learned so much about perspective and, you know, building my drawing chops, because before then I feel like I got lucky getting into animation, you know, like someone just, you know, even though I wasn't ready, like somewhat like, you know, the people that hired me, like gave me the chance to like prove myself.
Yeah.
And so like I had a lot of like foundational skills lacking, but somehow I cheated my way through those obstacles. But I learned on the job, and, you know, eventually I wanted to get into feature animation, but I figured, you know what, this is a way, like this is the back door. Like instead of trying to apply into Disney feature or DreamWorks feature or like Sony animation on their website and like trying to like get a job through recruiters, I'll just go through the TV route and then work my way up into feature.
Yeah.
And so I went through background design, and then after work I would work on my color, because I needed to get better in color, especially if I wanted to eventually become a visual development artist. I would work on my just doing a lot of studies, doing plein air painting, and just getting better at just finding a good painting process that worked for me. During my period working as a BG cleanup artist, I eventually built up a portfolio of background painting that I did on the outside of work. And once my job was my contract was ending with Hasbro, long story short, I ended up getting a background painting job on Green Eggs and Ham at Warner Brothers, all due to the stuff I was doing outside of work, just like studying, you know, light and color and light. And I didn't think any of those studies would help me get a job in background painting, but the art director, Pascal Campion, he built a relationship throughout the years. So he kind of, he knew who I was, and, you know, he gave me a shot. And I don't think he knew that I wasn't experienced as a background painter, but he liked the work that I did. And yeah, I did an art test and they liked it, and I got hired. And through working there, I found a great process in painting that was efficient and quick, and things sort of started to click for me just in general. And I don't know, I'm a slow learner. So I had to do, it's funny, like looking back now, because now I'm a visual development, but like seeing the steps to lead me to where I am now, like I had to like break it down. Like, all right, my brain can't juggle too many things at once. Let's get better at drawing. All right, do a background design job. And then, all right, I need to get better at color. And then I ended up getting a background painting job. And then from there, I took those two skills of drawing and painting, and then which led me to eventually become a visual development artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So background painting, I had a great time just being able to focus on just the way I describe it to people who are non-artists what I do. I say, I basically do adult coloring books. So I don't have to focus on the design or drawing or characters. I just focus on the color and light. And it was honestly one of my favorite jobs I've ever had, just because I get to focus on the thing that I love the most. And it was awesome. But my time there like lasted only about 6 or 7 months. But during that time, I grew so much as an artist. And I think my work became a lot better. It became a lot better, and start to get noticed more on social media and stuff of my personal work, and eventually moving over to feature. Still very similar to what I did in TV animation, but I'm definitely have more tasks. So I'm doing a lot of prop design, prop painting, character painting, and doing like story moments from time to time, and just set designing, and just taking all the skills that I learned from working in TV animation as a background painter and designer, and the skills that I gained from working at a casino game studio, which I never thought would be helpful, but it did play a huge role in a lot of things that I've done recently, like doing a lot of graphic design and a lot of photo retouching. So some tasks, like some assignments I'll get where I have to take a 3D render and make it look like the finished product. So it felt like photo retouching in a lot of ways. And I just remember just painting hair, and I'm like, oh my God, I remember learning how to paint hair back at High Five Games, when I had to take a photo of a sexy man and a sexy woman and make them look illustrative, and then that we can put them into the game, the casino slot machine game.
There you go, man.
Yeah.
Everything's coming together. And that was one of the things, it actually was like a very natural progression in like talking to you about. One of the questions I wanted to ask you was, people don't, I feel like, know what a visual development artist really is.
Yeah.
And like you and I have talked about this before, where like on the outside looking in, we're just like, oh man, like that's it. That's the top job. Like, oh, I can't wait to do that. And what you learn when you're actually doing it is like, it's a lot of slapping textures onto models that you've been given. It's a lot of like the nitty gritty production stuff. It's stuff you don't think of. It's like, use this photo reference here for this street, this curb.
Yep.
Here's a scuffed metal texture for this mailbox.
Yeah.
And but like you said, it's like all the things that you've learned up to that point, you had to get all those necessary skills in order to apply them to being a visual development artist, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, back in college, when I realized I wanted to be a concept artist or be a visive artist for feature animation, I was looking at the art of books. I would buy a bunch of them. And over time, I collected over, I don't even know how many. I spent so much money on those art of books. And just seeing these beautiful, splashy paintings of like, mountainscapes and seascapes and just the characters like in action and storytelling. And it was just like, wow, I want to do that.
That's all that job is, right? Just those big fancy paintings?
Yeah, right? Yeah. So what come to, realizing later, like, oh my gosh, once I got the job in feature animation, I was like, wait, so I have to design a trash bin and like an incinerator bin. And
30 variations of these blades of grass?
Yeah,
Is that what you're looking for?
Yep. Or even leaves. Yeah, different types of leaves.
I've definitely drawn some piles of leaves.
Yeah, yeah. And so this is the thing that I wish I knew back in college. Like getting in, like, oh, this is what you're going to be doing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still love the job, but I feel like I was a little sidelined. Is that the right word? Sidelined? Yeah. Like, yeah, this is how you're going to get to do a lot of fancy splashy paintings, but it's not always the case. The big chunk of the job is you got to build the assets and everything where the character is going to be moving.
Yeah, it's a production, right? Like, you don't realize the things that go into making this thing come out. Like, we're a piece in a puzzle, like in a line that's going to be like, we have to inform the next person in the chain. We have to show the modeler exactly how this is supposed to look based on our art director's instructions.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something that, like, I mean, you learn a little bit in like a video game pipeline and stuff, but you don't realize to what extent, I think. that like, we've talked about, like, calling out the textures on this blade of grass or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like you don't realize that like someone has to tell you how to do that. Like,
yeah.
It has to be called out or else it won't happen.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh. I remember one of my first assignments was pretty fun. Like I got to do a splashy painting of like an underwater scene, and I won't get into it because I don't want to get in trouble if I talk about it. But anyways, that was a really fun assignment. And then almost immediately I had to design, I can't remember, but for amusement park. So I had to design like, like cotton candy machines and, like churro machines and hot dog machines. And that was actually pretty fun. I don't want to sound like I'm ungrateful because,
No, and like, it's definitely like, to be taken with the, like, we are so grateful for what we do.
Yeah.
We're so happy that like this is our job.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's us talking about what this job actually is.
Yeah.
And not just like, it's not big fancy paintings. It's like,
Yeah.
you're the nitty gritty person
Yeah.
in production that
Yeah.
makes these things happen.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I look back and I think about this from time to time. If I graduate college and my work was amazing and I got a job in feature animation almost like immediately off, right off the bat, I don't know if I would be as grateful about the job as I am now, because I had to go through like this long route, like of, working casino games, being a texture artist for AAA studio, and then going into background design, background painting, and now Viz Dev. It's like, I think all those steps that took me to get to where I am, like, was necessary. Because now I'm a lot more patient. Like, this is just a job. Like, I'm not going to put my heart and soul all the time. It's like, yeah, I'll do my best work, but I'm not going to be butthurt if I don't get to do a splashy painting, every single week.
And so like, this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this is, so I've done like a talk at my school before about like, it's okay not to work at Disney or Pixar. Like, yeah, it's really cool. And if that happens, like, that's awesome. But for the longest time, like, we've had a lot of parallels in our careers in terms of like, came out of school, worked at a video game company, worked at a mobile game studio for 3.5 years / casino games for 3.5 years, did background painting, became a visual development artist.
Yeah.
Like, people don't realize that like, you have to learn, you have to understand what things are, you have to keep growing, and it helps you as you go to like figure out what you enjoy about certain jobs, what you don't about others.
Yes.
And like, I don't know how I would have done it if, like you said, you just popped right into DreamWorks or Pixar or whatever and just like, all right, this is my thing now. Like, it'd be a lot.
Yeah.
And like, the fact that you had time to like figure it out and you had like this safe space to like still do your job, as opposed to instantly like, all right, you're in the fire now. Like, hope you don't screw up, kid.
Yeah.
It's just like you had time to like mature and to like figure yourself out and your art. Right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. I think I would have instantly exploded if it was like, you work at Disney now on the newest fancy movie. Like, good luck.
Yeah.
Hope you don't die.
Yeah. And then having to do, texture call outs for rocks or something.
The bottoms of these shoes.
Yeah.
Something super strange. But no, like, I seriously think that like that was like a perfect way of like describing like your journey into this. Like, because I know if I was in school still and I didn't know what I wanted to do yet, if it was video games, background painting, character design, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, if we're able to like demystify what this job is and what we do, then like that could help someone out who's sitting there in school right now. Like, oh, well, like now I know like what that thing is. Like, now I know maybe I don't want to do this thing specifically. Like,
yeah.
I've learned like for years, I was like, I want to be an art director. Like, that's my goal, art director.
Yeah.
And like, as you like see what that job is, you're like, it's a lot more like political stuff and like meetings and like
managerial.
Yeah, it's 90% that, and like you don't understand that because you just are like, that is the job title that is for me because I'm good at this.
It's the ego speaking, right?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And like, but like, I mean, people are amazing at that job.
Yeah.
And like, if that's what they're good at, then like that's awesome. Like,
yeah.
But like, you don't understand until you're there, until you see it. And for someone like sitting in school right now, like, I want to be a visual development artist. Like, that's awesome. And if that's for you, great. But
Yeah.
if someone's like, I think that's what I want to do, and then they hear that like, oh, like maybe that's not it. Like we could just help someone, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel, I spent we've talked about this and we've known each other for about 2 years or so. And I just remember talking about how like this is what we're going to do. We're going to work our way up to becoming biz dev artists.
Yeah, we had a conversation at CTN about this. We're like, dude, we're going to get there, man. We're going to be there
Yeah.
one day.
Yeah.
Sure enough.
Yeah. And it's weird because like, yeah, I enjoy my job a lot, but I'm happy just focusing on color and light. I don't care about designing as much, even though I definitely want to get better as a designer. I just enjoy color. And if someone could just give me a rough layout of, a scene or or grab a storyboard from the sequence, I could just paint that up. I don't care as much about like trying to make the perfect design. Learning that about myself, like it took a while because, I want to be able to just do everything. Yeah. And I still do. But what really makes me happy is just painting.
Yeah.
Even though like I see amazing designers here and there, like, oh my God, I wish I could draw like that.
Yeah. But like you realize also that like they can't do what you do probably, right? Like I know like my friend at work, Sam, like who you know as well, you had a class with him. Like that guy can design like no one I've ever seen, man. He is on top of it.
Yeah.
But he comes to me, he's like, dude, you paint better than I do. I'm like, well, yeah, I've spent more time doing specifically that thing. And like, that's okay. Like, I know what I like doing. He knows what he likes doing. And
yeah.
like, it takes time to figure it out. Like, you never know. I wouldn't have known in school that like,
yeah,
I'm going to be the color guy. Like, that's what I like doing.
Yeah. Cause I think in college,
everyone's like, I want to be a character designer.
Yeah.
And you realize like, oh, well, like maybe not. Like it's different.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like it as much as I thought.
Yeah.
Whatever, so
at least for me, I think, studying illustration at RISD, we were trained to like be good at everything. Mm-hmm. So you had to have like be good at drawing, painting, designing, and it was a lot of pressure trying to hone in all those skills. But then realizing like, because I worried like, oh man, my drawing sucks. I'm not going to get a job. I'm never going to get a job doing art or doing what I love. I was a young art student, just panicking about like my future, and the fact that I couldn't draw a baby's face made me really, really scared. And like my whole life depended on like, oh my God, can I draw that car? Can I draw that baby? And
I love that the two assignments that you would have gotten at school were draw a car or draw a baby.
One of my teachers, like he tasked us one day. He was like, can you guys draw a baby? If you can't, like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but basically just like, if you can't do this, good luck, like good luck trying to find a job. I might be exaggerating that. Maybe it's just, that's what I remember, but I mean, don't get mad at me, especially you RISD students. Like, I think you know who I'm talking about, but I won't say his name. But yeah, like realizing later, like I don't need to be good at everything. If I could just hone in one thing, I'll be fine. I mean, yeah, it'll be great to like practice those other skill sets, but you want to make it easy for a recruiter or an employer to look at your portfolio and think like, okay, that guy, like I could tell, or that person, I could tell that they want to do this. Like if they can just pinpoint exactly what you want to do and notice that you're good at it, then that's good.
Yeah.
Like
they know what role in a production that you're going to be able to fit into, right? Because like that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
They're trying to fill the dream team, the roster or whatever. Like, oh, well, I know this person's good at that thing, so I see how they can be that puzzle piece for this production.
I mean, it's great if you could do all those things. I mean, there are superstars. Like,
I will applaud it, but I cannot do that.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm still learning to be comfortable with the fact that like I'm a painter. And I'll work on my other skills, developing my drawing skills and designing skills, which is why I'm taking classes just to get better at those things. I'm embracing more and more that, I just like to paint.
Yeah. Dude, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So like speaking to what you said of like, I just like to paint. Like one question that I've heard a bunch and that like I wanted to get from you was, like people can look at like your work on Instagram or your website or whatever and see like, oh man, like I want to paint like Francis. What influences and like what things are you looking at right now? Because like one thing that I've heard is that like don't try to emulate the person you're looking at. Try to learn from who they're learning from. like the influences, like the older painters, the things that are like inspiring them. So like, what things like are you trying to learn about painting right now, or who are you trying to learn from?
Well, I picked up a book a few months ago, and I'm slowly getting through it. It's Alla Prima by Richard Schmid.
It's the best.
It is the best, especially, like wake up in the morning, drinking your coffee or tea, and just get the brain started. I'll open up a page and just start reading a paragraph, and hopes that I could apply whatever I learned from that book into my day. But that doesn't always happen. Sometimes I forget to look at the book. But anyways, the point is, I look at Richard Schmid. That's one of my biggest inspirations right now. Tibor Nagy, he's another amazing painter, a fine artist. He is phenomenal. You will love him. Oh. A lot of impressionist painters because, like Monet, Seurat, I don't know how you pronounce his name. American impressionists like John Singer Sargent.
Oh, yeah.
And Mary Cassatt. I just love those impressionistic, expressive brushstrokes in a lot of those artwork. And so I try to apply that as much as I can to my own artwork, because I try to stay away. I'm trying to get away from the digital look as much as possible these days. And especially maybe it's like full circle, going back to my traditional foundations from RISD, because I was trained traditionally and had to like paint in oil and acrylic and gouache. I had to learn digital painting on my own. Like we didn't have any classes in Photoshop, so I just learned on my own. But yeah. Anyways, so the question was,
just like who your inspirations are, and I think you pretty much nailed that right on the head, dude.
Oh yeah, and last thing, Russian painters I'm blanking out their names right now, but there's a lot of good ones, and
we can add those back in. If you remember them, just tell me, and I'll do my best Francis impression to throw those in.
We're going to put this in right now because I think this is a good bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways.
But dude, that was like you hit everything that I could have hoped to get out of you, like your journey into like all these different, fields and stuff, and like how we can help people out that like want to do what we do and just try to answer some questions for them. But buddy, I can't thank you enough for coming to hang out and like talk on a microphone for a little bit with me.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me, and I hope that we get to do this again sometime.
Dude, you live like 2 minutes away from me. We can do this every day.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to talk about, we can make a podcast about how we do our laundry at the same place. We can do all kinds of weird stuff.
Dude, let's do it.
We do it at the laundromat.
Oh my gosh, that'd be fun.
It's like a little bit you have to have in there, right? Like how Jerry Seinfeld has his like comedians in cars getting coffee.
Yeah.
It's like artists at the laundromat doing laundry.
Oh my God, I love that idea. You need to do that.
Yeah, maybe we'll see for the next episode if we can make that happen.
Okay.
All right, man. Well, thanks again, dude.
All right, thank you.
Hey there, artists and podcast fans. Just wanted to take a second to say thank you all for stopping by. A very special thank you to Francis for coming by my house and sitting down with me. Please be sure to check below for links to Francis's work. If you enjoyed what you heard, please leave a comment below with some artists that you'd like to hear from, as well as some questions that you'd like me to ask our guests. Doing these interviews is a really good excuse for me to hang out with some very talented people, so it's pretty darn enjoyable. Once again, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.